it's a living, breathing OML coach for you. But our data is pretty strong that lower OML is going to really struggle, and profitability is going to be a challenge, as are a bunch of other aspects. And you can improve your OML and do the right things right. You get a much better shot, no guarantee, but much better shot of being profitable and successful and all the good things that come with that.
What can you give us any statistics or data about what some of these best-in-class companies are capable of doing? For example, organic growth. What percentage organic growth do we typically see with a best-in-class company? What's our EBITDA percentages, normalized EBITDA percentages, that sort of thing?
Yeah, last quarter I can tell you that our cutoff to get into best in class for MSPs was just over 17%. I think the average was 23.3% adjusted EBITDA. And recurring revenue growth rate, which is really it's a net score. So you're taking your recurring revenue growth minus your recurring revenue attrition. And the net for the best in class was about 21%. Bottom quartile was under 10%. It was about 9.5%. What's interesting when you peel that data apart is that the bottom quartile folks are actually adding more new logos than the best in class are adding on a quarterly basis. The difference is the best in class are adding larger agreements, and they're adding much higher gross margin agreements. So bottom quartile gross margin on new agreements is about 42% service gross margin. And best in class gross margin on managed services is on new agreements is about 10 points higher. It's about 52.5. So you're going to grow much faster, and you're going to be much more successful when you're selling agreements at 52.5% gross margin compared to 42. It doesn't sound like it's that much different, but it's actually 20% better. And when you factor in your cost of sales into the mix, you're using up an awful lot of the cost of sales, using up most of the gross margin generated by that managed service agreement on the bottom quartile. Best in class still has plenty left to pay the bills and to have some left for profit, etc. So it matters more. The revenue is certainly important, but it matters even more the quality of the revenue that you're bringing in.
Amazing. We've talked about benchmarking. We've talked about Sleek. We've talked a little bit about chart of accounts. Tell us a little bit more about Evolve and some of the peer group stuff that's out there.
Yeah, Evolve is an unbelievable community. They used to be HTG, as I said, that Arlen founded years and years ago. And he sold the business to ConnectWise a few years before Service Leadership was acquired by ConnectWise. But the idea by ConnectWise was this community is so impactful, and it helps these partners so much with their businesses and to grow, that we want to be part of it. And ConnectWise already had IT Nation, IT Nation Connect, the most famous event of IT Nation, every November, as I'm sure you're familiar. I'm sure you've been there. But it really made sense to acquire the peer groups and grow them. And so today, Evolve has different levels of groups, Evolve 1, 2, and 3. And Service Leadership actually had 6 peer groups when we were acquired as well. 4 MSP groups and 2 VAR groups. And we still have those groups. They have a different content format than Evolve does a little bit, and a little different structure. We're in those meetings even more, providing content. But all of it's under Evolve now. And so every quarter those groups meet, and the Evolve groups meet Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and on Wednesday they have what's called Community Day, where they can either stick around if they were a Monday, Tuesday member, or if they're a Thursday, Friday, they come early. And on Wednesdays, everybody gets together in common areas and listens to some really amazing content. And that content can cover leadership and sales and customer experience and all sorts of different things that are really topical for every MSP out there. I speak at a lot of those community days, and then a couple of my colleagues and I also go into the Evolve groups one by one for an hour at a crack and give them an update on the latest industry update, the latest numbers, and what good looks like these days. And we also talk about whatever else is on their mind and what challenges they're having. And um, because we deal with so many MSPs, we're just in a really good position to be able to provide guidance on different issues that they're dealing with. And those groups are just amazing. You mentioned the accountability aspect and talked about Vistage as well. As a CEO, I was actually in a Vistage type group, and I was in a service leadership peer group because the outcomes are so radically different. The Vistage group was great because I would get together with CEOs from my area and really get an understanding of what was going on in different industries, and that was great for stimulating ideas and different ways to think about the business. But it also kept me close to the local business community and wasn't terrible for sales and growing the business either. You got to know some other CEOs. So I really enjoyed that and got a lot out of that. The industry specific peer groups, because you're getting together with companies that you're not competing with, and they're all facing the same industry challenges that you are, those are just such an unbelievable sounding board for your strategy and for different technology that you're thinking of deploying and all the other things that come along in the life of an executive at an MSP. And today, Evolve even has subgroups for service managers and for sales and for security and COO and CFO groups that meet. And so as the industry has matured and grown, we now are seeing much larger organizations that have many more layers of leadership and other challenges. And so there's groups that are specifically designed for them. So I can't recommend getting in a peer group strong enough. It's if somebody really wants to figure out how to improve their business and frankly, improve their life. You're going to learn a lot in the Evolve groups. They get into legacy planning and they get into M&A and all sorts of things related to life after the MSP. And so you will get so much more out of being in a peer group than you put in, and you'll put in a lot, but it's just an unbelievable experience for you.
I completely agree, and I hope all of you techies out there listening, again, it's hard to know what you don't know, and joining these peer groups will open your eyes to many of the different things that you don't know. Peter, you've mentioned the word challenges a bunch of times in that last conversation, and so I'm wondering what you see are the key challenges and risks that are facing MSPs today, and how that differs from 5-10 years ago.
I think I would put it I'll answer your question, but maybe in a roundabout way, Jeff. I would also put in there opportunities. And so the business model, one of the exciting things with running an MSP is that the business is constantly in a state of change. Now, for some, they might not describe that as exciting. They might describe it in other
Terrifying,
terms.
right?
Right. Um, but it really is. It's one of the, yeah,
Exhausting is the one. Yeah.
yeah. And so, yes, it's all of those things. It can be exhausting. It can be stressful. Um, it can be really difficult. But it can also be incredibly challenging and stimulating and rewarding, all of the above. And so I think that's why so many of us love the space is that constant challenge that comes with it.